Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. Big news for the Toronto Raptors. Scottie Barnes has agreed to sign a 5-year, $70 million deal. This is a little misleading, so we're going to talk about what the deal means, how it breaks down, what it means for the Toronto Raptors building in the age of the new CBA, and just a general, overview of the CBA for people who are a little bit confused. I've read comments around Raptors Twitterland and on Real GM and Reddit saying, why didn't the Raptors wait? Could they have offered him more? Could they have offered him less? Would that have been more prudent? What does this mean for his long-term future in Toronto? When does the deal kick in? And of course, there's just a general malaise and confusion around the CBA. And I have never pretended to be a CBA expert, but last night I did a lot of reading into the CBA. I think I probably went in for about 4 hours just trying to dissect every line of it so that I knew that I understood it so that, when this whole thing happened, I expected it to happen this week, uh, that I would be in a good position to talk about it. So, first of all, if you're new around here, hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you are a Toronto Raptor fan, um, definitely check us out on Wednesday and Thursday as we do draft stuff, right? We're going to be doing the NBA draft live on this channel. And if you're not a Toronto Raptor fan, if you're a Pistons fan, if you're a Cavaliers fan, if you're a Magic fan who's come here to say, hey, y'all overpaid this guy, he's not worth it, chill. Chill with that energy. Okay, so first let's talk about it. First of all, the figure 270 is misleading. It's not 270 right now. As it's currently projected, it's probably not going to be 270, but there's a chance it's going to be 270, and agents like to report the highest value. So Bill Duffy naturally controls a little bit of how Adrian Wojnarowski is going to report this. And because Scottie is an all-star and there is some realistic path to him becoming an all-NBA player next year, the reporting is going to be 270. But there's a little asterisk there of up to 270, which means that if Scottie Barnes makes, if he becomes Defensive Player of the Year, I believe it was Defensive Player of the Year, makes an all-NBA team or wins MVP, one of those three things has to happen for him next year in order to qualify for the full 270. If he doesn't, however, make that, no fret, no problem, right? It's still going to be a very sizable contract. It's going to be 229. That seems like a lot of money, right? When you think about, where contracts are, especially when you think about the broader context of the Toronto Raptors not even wanting to offer Pascal Siakam 192 million across 4 years. When you think about the Raptors balking on, Fred's price, if you're a Raptors casual, maybe someone who, pretty much started tuning in around, I don't mean to sound condescending, but just someone who maybe thought Fred, Pascal, and OG were worth this kind of money. Let me explain to you why they're not. And frankly, even as a proponent of signing OG, I'll agree that he's not worth anywhere close to 40 million. When you consider the implications of a second apron team and building around players who are massively overpaid, I'll give you an example. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a team with players who are massively overpaid. The Phoenix Suns have players who are massively overpaid, right? Specifically, one player. The Chicago Bulls have a player who is massively overpaid. Allegedly, the Chicago Bulls have gone to 15 or 16 different teams with a trade offer for Zach LaVine. They're not asking for much back. They're basically asking for salary filler. Nobody's interested. Everyone has taken what happened with Bradley Beal as a cautionary tale of what not to do in the modern NBA. Now, there's a bit of a caveat with the cap smoothing of the new CBA and the TV rights deal that everyone's talking about all this money that's ushering in. Now, look, the last time this happened where there was a massive boost, right? If you remember, right, there used to be a time when, players who were very good players, like all-star level players, were signing $15 million deals. Those days are gone. If you remember the cautionary tale of Alex Crabb or Alan Crabb, it was Alan Crabb, Timothy Mozgov. There were a lot of players who got paid because the last time this happened, where there was a surge or of money put into the NBA, they gave it all at once, which means that free agency class was disproportionately advantaged over other free agency classes. This year, the NBA Players Association and, the NBA owners decided that they were gonna cap smooth this. So ultimately, you're gonna have the cap increase by, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 10% every single year, going up, 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 for the next 4 or 5 years as this money comes in. So it's not gonna come in all at once, which means that if you sign a deal right now with Emmanuel Quickly, that seems like it's a really, really, tough deal for you. Even if it grows at 8% increments, as the cap increases by 10% increments, you are still going to see value on the upside of the end of that deal. The only exception to this will be older players, like Fred VanVleet, like Pascal Siakam, who are hitting 30, perhaps like Kelly Olynyk, where maybe even the 8% versus 10% discrepancy in how those contracts are going up and how the CBA is going, or how the cap is going up, is not going to offset how fast the player is going down. So there's three real things to manage here. The other thing you have to manage, there was again, I reference this pretty much every single day when I talk about Sam Presti and, sorry, it wasn't Sam Presti. Name escapes me right now. As you can tell, I woke up like an hour ago. I had a really, really long day. I was like doing some writing assignments and working on the big board video. So I apologize. I'm still a little bit loopy. Um, not Sam Hinkie, not Sam Presti, the guy who's the current general manager of the 76ers. He had this quote where he said it's best to operate in a league where 6 or 7 teams don't know what they're doing. And I think right now we are getting dangerously close um, to operating in a league where 6 or 7 teams have badly mismanaged their cap space. And so as you go forward, there's a lot of things that happen. And I think we need to talk about it in terms of like what the Scottie contract means and ultimately what this 2021 class's contracts will mean, right? Now, you have a guy like Scottie Barnes, and I think he's legit worth every penny of what he's getting, right? And I think he'll be worth even more. That's the upside bet. That's the hope whenever you sign a guy for a max contract, is that he's going to be worth more than that max contract. Max contracts are supposed to be the best value deal in the NBA after a rookie contract when you get it right. But when you get it wrong, when it's, attached to a guy like Tobias Harris or, when it's attached to a guy like Ben Simmons, well, those contracts backfire. There's an upside downside argument here. So when you sign a guy like Scottie Barnes, the expectation is, yeah, we're going to give you 229. We hope you get all NBA and go up to 270. We hope that you'll be worth 500 over the lifespan of your contract. It's very ambitious, but I'm saying that's always the hope with a player like this. And I don't think that Scottie's the type of person to get paid and then be like, all right, I'm here. I'm good. I'm just going to chill on basketball. I think he's more the type of person who says, y'all paying me $270 million. I'm going to give you every penny of that back in terms of value. This is a guy who's played hurt. And that's not common, right? In today's NBA, where everyone's talking load management, everyone's trying to protect the asset. It's not common for a guy to come back. He has shown you for 3 straight years that he is a person who works hard, that he's a person who invests in the community, that he's a person who gives back, that he's a person who is accountable to himself, the person who gets better every summer, a person who loves his teammates and is invested in growing Toronto. So I understand that there's going to be a lot of vultures that are going to come around, once they see that contract, 270, whatever, and all of next year, it's going to be like, this is the guy they're paying 270 because they're going to compare it to some random hockey asshole, or they're going to compare it to their own fucking contract, and they're going to be very upset about it. And I get that. I get that. This happens every single time. Pascal Siakam went through it. Vince went through it. Everyone goes through this, right? People start pocket watching, right? But Scottie Barnes is worth this. And, as someone who's watched him since 2018, I'm insanely proud of this. 2017, I'm insanely proud of this dude. And it's going to be wonders for his family. So big congratulations to him, his family, and his friends and everybody. But that doesn't mean that he's the only person getting paid right now. Congratulations to his agent. Congratulations to Brian. Congratulations to everybody. Honestly, it's a big team. And, congratulations to all of them. As I was saying, 2021 class, there's a lot of guys who are going to get paid here. Jalen Suggs, extension eligible. Cade, Jalen Green, Franz Wagner, Jonathan Kuminga, et cetera, et cetera. If you're interested in seeing what those guys are expected to get, go check out the contract. There's a article over at Spot Track that you can definitely go check out. They project what these guys are worth. Cheat sheet. a lot of guys are gonna get paid money that they're not deserving. Okay, Cade is gonna get to 229. I don't think he's worth it. This is not me pocket watching. This is just me being objective about basketball. Evan Mobley's gonna get 229. That's gonna be tough, right? If he ends up making, if he ends up winning Defensive Player of the Year or making an All NBA third team or something after a rise next year, I mean, you're stuck on 270 for Evan Mobley. That's tough. It's tough. It's not the worst thing. It's not Cade Cunningham bad, but it's bad. Um, then you got Jalen Green. Obviously he is not the most, how should I put this kindly? He's not always the quickest to adjust to reality, so he's probably not going to see himself as a far cry from Cade, and he's not wrong. He's not that much worse than Cade. Frankly, I'm just being straight up. Like neither one of them deserve anything close to this money. But obviously, as a second overall pick, franchise cornerstone, guy who takes a lot of shots, probably hyped up a lot by his inner circle. He probably thinks, well, if Scottie's getting 229, I deserve 229. That's not the case, and I don't think the Houston Rockets are going to pay him that kind of money. But hopefully for him, he can manage to get 118 or something like that. Like it's going to be a lot less than what these other guys are doing. Another guy who's extension eligible is Alperen Şengün, and I think he will probably take the 270. So therein lies, the crux of it, right? Those are the guys. Franz Wagner is probably going to get another 229. You're going to have a lot of guys coming into the league that are very big contract guys. That 2021 class may not have yielded a LeBron, but it has yielded plenty of Chris Bosches, and they're all going to get paid. So that is where we're at. Is if you're a Raptor fan, rejoice. You got the best of them. He's going to get paid like the rest of them. Wow, that kind of rhymed. I'm listening to a lot of Kendrick Lamar lately, so maybe that's just like it's flowing in and out. So longer story short, the Raptors are one of the rare teams that has managed the cap space and cap flexibility very well. And you're going to see teams like Phoenix, LA Clippers, Denver Nuggets, Boston Celtics, and you're going to see the growing ramifications of being a second apron or first apron team. So, specifically to those of you who have not read the CBA, um, the apron restrictions come in when you clip a certain mark, right? And you clip there's like the salary cap. There's a cap floor, then there's the cap, then there's the luxury tax, then there's apron one, apron two. So for teams like the Clippers and the Suns, is the apron. I think the best way to understand it is like it's a little bit like quicksand, right? It's very tempting, right? It's very tempting when you have a player, big money player like a Zach LaVine, available to you, and you can trade for him. Like the Toronto Raptors right now could probably trade Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher and get Zach LaVine like that. Is that a talent upgrade? Hell yes, it is. Is that going to help your ticket sales? Yes, it is. It probably is because Zach LaVine's a pretty big name. He's been in dunk contests, whatever. Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher have not. But when you start thinking about the longer term implications of paying that guy year over year and how close you tried to it, the locking, the restrictions of the CBA that are imposed on second apron teams are you can't aggregate contracts, you can't get guys in the buyout market, you can't buy draft picks. Uh, and then suddenly you don't have your room exception, mid-level exception. Those restrictions get taken away from you. And then eventually, if you stay there long enough, if you are a repeater team, then your draft picks basically become shifted to the end of the first round, which means you could be, the Phoenix Suns could be a really terrible team 2-3 years from now. But if they've been on the second apron, their fifth pick will become a 30th pick by default. The other thing here is because teams are dreadfully unaware of how to navigate this new CBA. I mean, I don't know who's working for these guys, but it's weird how many teams have put themselves in such precarious situations with this. You have teams that are trying to avoid luxury tax. You're trying to avoid that apron. And so you have teams that may present a unique opportunity for teams that haven't clipped the apron or aren't even close to it, like the Toronto Raptors, right? So even with Scottie's extension kicking in, and obviously, if you're a Raptor fan who's like a big Scottie fan, you're rooting for him to get that All NBA. But maybe if you're looking at this purely from the Caps perspective, you don't want him to get All NBA because you just think that building around Scottie Barnes at 229 is a lot easier than building around Scottie Barnes at 270. Personally, I don't really care. Either way, he's getting generational, life-changing money, so I'm happy for him either way. But I understand both sides of the argument. But for the Raptors right now, even like when you're looking at current teams, Take for instance Sacramento and Memphis, both teams that are luxury tax teams right now. You take for instance Portland. All those teams have first round picks. All of those teams, right? And maybe they don't see the value in those first round picks. They're high first round picks. All of those teams have high first round picks. Maybe they don't see the value in paying that amount because they don't see anyone on their roster, and maybe they're trying to be competitive next year. I mean, I don't understand why Portland would do that, but this is the type of year where you can actually get away probably with trading. You could trade like a future heavily protected first pick, for a first round pick for a lottery pick this year and probably get away with it. It's a combination of two things. Number one, the cap. Number two, weak draft. So that's why I say, like, don't be worried if a guy that the Raptors really, really like is going to fall, and it's not going to be another Giannis and Shea situation this year. They're probably going to be able to trade up because there's going to be teams that are willing to move off lottery picks. Because, and again, I remember getting laughed at, um, kind of called out by another show because I was the person who said this. But there was a good reason I didn't want the Raptors to get like a first overall pick or a second overall pick this year. And largely it's because no one at the top is worth that kind of money to put on your books. Now, again, maybe the asset is worth it. Maybe you can trade the asset. But as a player, right? Like the second overall pick in this year's draft is worth significantly less than the 14th, 15th overall pick in next year's draft. So therein lies the sort of crux of it. I was pretty happy with us staying at 6, maybe moving up to 4, but 1, 2, 3 was kind of scary because $12 million to a player, that could be a total bust is scary times right now. You just can't waste that kind of money. So the Raptors are being very, very cautious in how they navigate cap space. They will continue to have to be cautious with Emmanuel Quickley's next contract because there is a chance that they could have to overpay on that. And now you're starting to get into dangerous territory because you're now investing a lot of money into a lottery team. So from the Raptors' perspective, I think they've navigated it well. I think, proud of Scottie Barnes and everything, that he's done so far to get himself to a point where this was a no-brainer decision for the Toronto Raptors. They'll need to continue to be a team that navigates the cap well. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I decided to do something kind of crazy. I went through every transaction in Raptors history. This is just a personal curiosity of mine. I just wanted to see who did what. And literally every single draft pick, every single trade, every single free agent signing, every dollar amount, I just went through it. I wanted to brush up on my Raptors history. And I got to tell you, some of the deals, some of the trades, it was crazy. Hold on. Do y'all realize that Tracy McGrady didn't sign with the didn't sign with the Orlando Magic? Did y'all realize that? Did you realize that the Raptors signed and traded him? I didn't know that. I honestly didn't. I thought the whole time Tracy McGrady signed with Orlando. That's not what happened. Tracy signed a 6 or 7 year deal with the Raptors. They signed and traded him for future first round pick. That first round pick became a guy who never ever came over, whose name I'm forgetting right now, but he's a European legend. Shit. Franz Vasquez. Franz Vasquez. Yes. Franz Vasquez. I was about to say Franz Wagner. No, Vasquez. He never came over. And the Raptors didn't even make that pick because they traded that pick to Detroit or somebody for Corliss Williamson. So it's a complete like navigation fuck. Like, wow. So it makes you appreciate that you have people like Bobby Webster and Masai Ujiri who can navigate this cap well and who have taken a pretty like when they screw up, it's not big screw ups, right? They messed up with they tend to hit the right ones, right? They got the Scottie Barnes decision. That was a really big one. They're getting his extension now. That's a big one. Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett are of bigger consequence. And so, yeah, sometimes you're going to screw up like a 45th or 46th overall pick, or you might screw up like a mid-level exception signing. But what I have appreciated about the Raptors over the last year, at least since the Jakob trade, notwithstanding, but since the Dennis signing, is they're willing to move off things quickly and they're not making like big gambles that are not going to pay off, right? So right now, another small gamble could be, parking your cap space, taking on Kevin Herter and Harrison Barnes, or taking on Andrew Wiggins or Chris Paul or something, or Draymond Green. Like those could be small gambles that you could take. And you're saying like, wow, Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins, how the fuck is that a small gamble? Well, it's a small gamble because you're losing a year of flexibility in order to give yourself like extra assets. I'm assuming a first round pick or Moses Moody or something would come along with that. So I'm I may not always trust the Raptors um, basketball decisions, but I trust their money decisions pretty well. Now, some people say, "Well, shit, they overpaid Jakob Poeltl. They had to. They really had to. I mean, at that point, they really had to. I mean, San Antonio was coming in hard for him. You lose out on Fred. He's seeing all the money on the books, and I think that this is the other side of the contract stuff that's gonna people tend to compare. It's a human nature thing, right? So Emmanuel quickly, he's going to see you taking care of Scottie Barnes at 270, and he's going to look at that just like the same way he looked at Jalen Brunson's contract, right? And he's probably going to look at it like you paying him 270, you're paying me 180 at least, right? So that therein lies that sort of comparative nature of how basketball tends to work, and of course if you're going to pay Emmanuel quickly 5 years, 180, I think you're making a mistake. So hopefully the Raptors can hold tough on that. I don't think that he's even eligible for 5 years, 180. But anyways, he's going to be eligible for a pretty significant raise. Initially, when he came from New York, the beef was they wanted to pay him 17, he wanted 20 to 25. Like he wanted he wanted something closer to 25. So if the Raptors can get him under 27, I'm happy. If the Raptors get him for more than 27, the more the worse it gets, in my opinion. And I'm a big Emmanuel Quickly fan. I'm just trying to throw this out there. Like it's tough. Um okay, let's get to some comments here. IQ may be 5 years, 150. 5 years, 150 is a steal. It is most certainly not a steal. You failed math. $30 million a year for Manning quickly is not a steal. What are you talking about? Home run hitters with easily the dumbest comment of like, what did Scottie do to your girl, bro? It's new CBA. Everybody is going to get paid. That's not true at all. But of course, like if you're going to get like the compromise will be on dollars and years, right? Term versus dollars, right? So if you're going to take a man quickly because you trust him to get better and better and better and outperform that contract, it's always going to come down to this element of it, right? We get FA on. FA, what's up?
I'm good. What's up? How you doing?
Not too bad. What's good? You happy with the contract?
I love it, man. I love it, 100%.
Yeah, it shows a lot of commitment from both sides, right? 5 years,
That
you
that my
sign it
that my
early.
that my franchise right there.
What would you give Emmanuel quickly?
25 to 28.
Yeah, I'm in the same
I,
range.
I think even if they're giving 29, it's not gonna be bad, right? With all the TV deals coming, it's gonna age well. Um hopefully he develops more and becomes a better playmaker. But I think somewhere around 27 that you said is fair.
I think he's going to get better. I think, the thing with Emmanuel quickly is you just hope he doesn't realize how much better he's going to get. So you sign him to his 25 and then you have the steal of a contract, right? He's still
Hmm.
undersized. It's still a roster thing where, I don't say undersized. He's fairly sized for a guard if he's undersized. 90% of the league at point guard is undersized. But I do think that one could make a case that a bench guard who started for half a season for a lottery team should not, and was a 25th overall pick, should take a little bit of a discount. And I hope that he can be humble enough to realize that, like, he hasn't done what Scotty's done in his career, right? Like, it's not the same equation. Um,
It is not at all right. Scotty does literally everything, defense,
yeah,
at assist, score, and everything. So they,
exactly. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't even mind like this is just me thinking out loud. Like I wouldn't even mind if IQ's like, hey, I want 30 or bust. I wouldn't even mind saying, let's do 25 and let's give you 3 years instead of five. Where you can hit unrestricted free agency. The compromise here is it's more of a bet on yourself contract for him, where he hits
Mhm.
unrestricted free agency sooner. Maybe you give him a player option. I don't know. So three plus a player option or something like that. The Raptors have done this before where they have chosen to give a little less than what the player wanted, but they've given fewer years so that the player has more flexibility. So I wouldn't mind a three plus a player option and he signs 25 million, as opposed to trying to get the most, years and term. With Scotty, it's a completely different equation. Like I want the most term, the most money. I don't care. Um, and it's the same thing with, players like, when he comes up like a Grady Dick or whatever, like unless Grady Dick flashes franchise player potential or superstar, all-star potential, like, just 3+1 is fine the way it's been going.
Yeah, but why I agree with you. I rather take the risk and have a long-term contract of like 5 years. I don't
Yeah.
want to be going through all the play option. I don't like the all the play options that we've been doing, to be honest with you.
Mm,
Because yeah, most of the time it puts us at a disadvantage.
yeah,
That's all we dealt with Pascal, Van Vliet, OG, and the list goes on.
for sure. Any final thoughts, man?
Yeah, I guess let's hear what Toastman is going to say tomorrow. But looking forward to the draft. If I'm a betting man, I think we're going to pick Keyshawn George or this guy Kelly, because I don't think ED is going to be there at 19. I think Portland is likely going to pick him. There's sports that Portland might take him at 7 or 13.
Okay. I'm happy for your pocketbook that you're not a betting man because that shit's not happening, bro.
And they said
Keyshawn,
Raptors are they're doing their
Keyshawn and Kaloware is not happening. Okay, let me just like I'm
The,
just
the
gonna
last
I'm gonna be
they said after they're doing their due diligence on Isaiah Collier because it's likely going to be there at 19.
sure. Do your due diligence, bro. But like I remain very 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 hopeful that they will pick Use Misi.
Then maybe we'll wait and because was Utah they're trying to trade up to top 20 and to get another pick, and they're dangling the 29th and the 32nd pick to move up to top 20.
That's a terrible deal. That's a
Yeah.
terrible deal. They can
All
dangle
right.
it all they want. All right, man. Peace.
2 more days. We'll see. Bye.
We'll see. We have Solomon Kita. What's up?
What's up, man?
How you
How
doing?
you feeling? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I love the Scotty contract. Obviously, I
Mhm.
think that's the right move. The one thing I'm just wondering, okay, has anything changed? So, like, why are we debating Emmanuel quickly getting 30? What changed? Because to me, he just started being a lead guard, like a
Mhm.
lead point guard. So I haven't seen the display of value that indicates that he's worth 30. So why is that even a point of conversation?
I think it's two things. Number one, it's upside, right? It's betting on a player being better versus betting on a player being worse. I think this is like the difference between an Emmanuel Quickly at 24 versus a Pascal Siakam at 30, right? You bet
Right.
on Pascal
Yeah.
Siakam maintaining, you bet on Emmanuel Quickly having growth potential. That's one thing. The second thing, um, I imagine is because the CBA is rising, the longer the deal, the cheaper it gets,
Right.
right? So again, Emmanuel Quickly today, $30 million. That's not the way this deal works, right? If it's 30 million annual average, it's going to start at like 26 and it's going to go
Mm,
up. He could probably see
right.
himself as worth more than RJ and worth less than Scotty. So if that's the floor, the third thing is that I believe
What's
that the
RJ
Raptors
at
will.
again? Sorry.
Hmm?
What's
RJ?
RJ at again?
I think his annual average is at
25?
26.
26, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
and I think that the final thing is the Raptors could face a little bit of pressure internally, or from other teams like San Antonio,
Mm,
and teams like Orlando, teams like because these teams do have the cap space to technically make a push. Now, obviously, you don't typically see teams like putting offers on
Right.
the table for a restricted free agent because it ties up your dollars. And if the Raptors really wanted to, they can take the full amount of time, and then boom, you lose all your free agency flexibility. So he would have to know internally. And the problem is, if Emmanuel quickly lets it be known, because that's the way this is going to work, right? It always works through agents. So if you go to Emmanuel quickly and say, we're going to give you 25, and he says, I want 30, and you don't budge, right? And you let him know just internally, like, hey, we're not paying you more than 25, 26, sign it or fuck off. Like, I know the Raptors wouldn't negotiate like this, but I'm saying, like, if you let it be known that 26 is his offer, his agent just has to go and let San Antonio or Orlando or one of these teams know, offer 28, they're not going to match, or offer 30, they're not going to match. And once those teams realize that, I think there's a team out there that'd be willing to pay 30 for him.
So that's the thing. I think whoever pays 30 is overpaying.
Probably true, yes.
With, like, I mean, I understand the potential, but
Mhm.
that's still a bet, right? Like,
It is.
his passing still needs work. You know
Okay,
what I
let me ask
mean?
you a question. Would you rather Cade Cunningham at two, like the same contract that Scottie signed, right? Like 229,
Mhm.
5 years, or would you rather Emmanuel Quickly at 150 over 5? So 150 for Emmanuel Quickly or 229 for Cade Cunningham. That's $80 million more
Definitely,
for Cade.
I prefer the 150.
Right. And
But
there
isn't Cunningham a bit younger?
Cunningham is 2 years younger, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's pick your poison, but obviously I'd prefer the lower price tag, right?
Yeah.
I just I
I
still
hope
do
the
not
Raptors can get him at
I'm
2.
not buying. Yeah,
Yeah, I
right.
think I think like this one right here, like 110.4 is great. Like that would be fantastic. I think it's a little
Yeah,
unrealistic though.
yeah. No, like
You know,
110.4, that makes sense. You
yeah,
know,
and
obviously, like,
that would be
I
fair.
understand, right? I'm just like I haven't seen what has changed since New York offered. Well, he wanted 25, right? They
Hmm.
were offering him like 18 or something.
Hmm.
I think 25 is accurate, and that's accounting for potential, right? Or maybe 28. I think like 28 would be like, and I still think it's a stretch. I just don't think it's proven anything. It could still not
I
work
think
out.
the other thing that makes things tricky for Toronto is two of the teams that have cap space and could use him, Orlando and San Antonio, don't have state income tax. So therein
Yeah,
lies the extra, incentive here. Now,
yeah,
obviously, I
that's,
think IQ likes it here. I think he likes it here. I think, he felt very poured into and very invested in by the Raptors. He strikes me as a very keep it real type of guy, right? Like he just seems like
mhm,
he's about more than just money. Like
yeah,
money seems to be like to him. I think that money is to him the way that money is to Jalen Brown or money is to Scottie Barnes, which is this is a sign that you're
right,
invested in me. It's not
yeah,
the whole picture; it's a part of the picture, right?
right,
So to Emmanuel quickly, maybe there is some element of this is the team that gave me the chance to start, right? This is a team that
mhm,
traded away a very valuable piece to get me. This is a team that is like actually helping me grow and get better. They're giving me opportunities, right? They're making me, I have a coaching staff here that's trying to make me a better player. So I don't know. Like I personally, if he pushes for 30, I'm willing to go on the less years. I'm willing to go like
right,
3 year plus one,
yeah,
like we did
yeah,
with OG, like we've done, we did two plus one with Gary. But I think the crazy thing is when I see like the Raptors, what they've signed Gary to, it's scary to me because Gary showed a lot less than Manny quickly. And Gary got
right.
18, 19 million in that. He got, I think it was
I
like 50, 54,
I
3.
think it was a situational thing for Gary because we really needed his shooting. Like he
Yeah,
was really,
but we really need
yeah,
Emmanuel quickly. Can you imagine Emmanuel quickly walking right now? You know how much that would put us back?
yeah, yeah,
Like
definitely.
we need him even
But
more. And his synergy with Scotty is like is a good thing. His off-court chemistry with Scotty, his growth with Scotty. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Now this is just me reading the tea leaves, and I could be wrong. But I have seen a lot of growth in Scottie Barnes over the last 6 months that I did not see the previous 6 months. And I'm
yeah,
talking not only as a player, but as a person, right? I'm seeing
mhm.
a lot of growth in him as a person. And a lot of the things that I like about him quickly are starting to become like things that I'm seeing in Scottie Barnes. So I
Yeah,
wonder,
I agree.
right? Because again, like you got, I mean, how old are you? You're like what, in your 20s?
I'm like close to 30. Yeah.
You're close to 30, right? So I think you and I probably both
Okay.
remember being like 21, 22, right? And I
Mhm.
remember being 21, 22, 20, whatever, going into a group of guys that were older than me and starting to pick up
Yeah.
habits, right? Pick up
Mhm.
mannerisms, pick up vernacular, pick up way of speaking.
Yeah.
And so I think with Scotty, like no offense to the people that we had around him prior to, but you had a lot of goofies around him, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like Emmanuel is like a serious guy. Like he is a
I agree.
serious
Yeah.
worker, a serious learner, a no nonsense, like don't fuck with me right now, I'm doing my job, that type of guy.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that has been such a positive to have around Scotty. So I just think like, yeah, that was just it's just my read on it, because I have seen a
But,
very big shift in
oh,
maturity in Scotty Barnes.
I like that's the thing. It's everything you say I agree with, and I think he's in the right timeline. I see both Scotty and Emmanuel like competing for championship, right? I
Me too.
see it. However, I feel like, yeah, I would go with their smaller years if you were to give him 30, if he really wants the 30, and he has to prove it. That's where I'm not like connecting. I'm like, we're still betting on him if we give him 30. We still have to like, it's a little bit of the Pascal thing, right? Like, we paid him,
Hmm.
even when we paid him the max, it was a little bit of, Kawhi's not here. We need you to become the max player, go and figure it out. We
Yeah.
lost 2 years out of it. Like there were 2 years where, it didn't go well, right? As him number one. Until I would give him the four when we ended fourth, like when we lost against the 76ers. I'll give
Right.
him that. Like he kind of showed out a little bit there. He's still like frozen important moments. But we bet it. That's all we did. And that's kind of a little bit of what I love with the Scottie Barnes deal. It's Scottie proved it. Like, no one is gonna argue that was a bad decision, right?
Hmm.
And we paid him because we both saw the results, and we expect results, right?
Yeah.
But with quickly, I just feel like I understand New York is a cesspool, but like he if he was in the right situation, he could have gotten that opportunity.
Hmm.
But I'm still like he's gotten it now, but there's improvement, but there hasn't been that like definitive kind of Scottie Barnes, you know.
I think so. Here's the thing, like with Emmanuel quickly, where a lot of people maybe didn't see a tremendous amount of growth last year, I did. They put him into a completely different situation basketball wise. They asked him to do something that was completely counter to what he typically wants to do. Um, and I don't think people realize that. Like they're just seeing, like I think a lot of people they just watch the box score, they watch the game, and they're not really understanding the context of the game, right?
Hmm.
Um, he played a ton of his Raptors career to date so far with depleted rosters where,
That's
G League guys coming in and out and Jonte Porter scandal and Jakob Poeltl and Scottie Barnes missing the end of the season. So we didn't completely get to see the best of Emmanuel quickly. And I think that might be to the Raptors' benefit this year because had we seen the best of Emmanuel quickly, maybe we would have seen a
well,
fucking 2 week stretch where he averaged a triple double. I
yeah.
think this guy, like fair value, I think he will earn 25, 100%. Like I'm
100.
confident to
I
say
agree.
he'll earn
I agree.
25. So if he will 100% earn 25, what's the upside? Right? The upside is he could potentially earn 36. So 28 to 30 seems like a fair
How
compromise. I
long?
hope it's
36 in how long?
like, I mean,
I'm
maybe in
talking
2
7
years,
years.
man.
Are
Maybe
we
maybe in
talking
2 years. I mean,
2 years?
he's hitting his prime right now, right? Like, so look, it's like the last okay, so his first year in New York was, an adjustment period, but it was a very good rookie season, a very promising rookie season.
Hmm.
The second year, they
Hmm.
tried to expand his role, and I believe this is before Jalen Brunson got there, when he tried to expand his role to be like, let's see if he can be a franchise point guard, and let's see if he can do some of the on-ball creation stuff. And he struggled mightily. Turnovers were
Right.
up, efficiency was down. He really
Right.
struggled. And so the third year, he went back to spark plug, right? So now fourth year, I believe, which was last year, now he went right into, doing what he's typically doing. But then when he got to the Raptors, they were like, oh, that thing that you tried to do in year two, we're going to try to make you do
Hmm.
it again. But this time we're going to make you effective at it. So instead of the floater range stuff, we're asking him to finish at the rim, even though it's going to be uncomfortable. Instead of,
Hmm.
initiating pull ups, the way he does, we want him to do 10 freaking above the break threes every single game, like Darko was saying. So we're putting him into positions where we're asking him to trust us to he'll be better. Now, obviously, he's going to be worse for a little while, but you're trying to make him into this quality player. Like, and yeah, I'm not going to say he's going to be Tyrese Maxey, but like if he can become Tyrese Maxey light, that's worth every penny you're going to pay him because Tyrese Maxey is going to be a max player.
I agree.
Anyways,
And
yeah.
yeah, and I'm not gonna take up much more of your show. It's just yeah, that discrepancy is where it's bothering me. Where I still think we're doing the Pascal thing again, or we're betting a little bit. Obviously, I see the talent. I see the. But I do think we should cap it at some point. Like
Yeah.
we shouldn't hit 30.
Yeah.
I just I disagree with hitting 30 because I think I give him less years, and if
Mhm.
he gets close, give him an extension, and give him what he's worth then. But I still like, as you said, year two, when they had put him in that situation, he didn't shine, right?
Mhm.
Maxi did as soon as
Yeah.
he was put in that situation.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate it. I think it's
Yeah.
your first time calling in.
I think it's like my second. I
Okay.
think I last called when Brady
All right. Cool,
when
man.
Brady was out there.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot for calling in. Hope you'll tune in during the draft show. All right. Peace, man.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll
See ya.
go.
Jordan, you are so insanely stupid. Got the tism. This is what you've come to. This is what you've come to say, bro. I wish I could see your face. Smack the living shit out of you. All right, you banned. Fuck out of here. Don't ever come back. Don't create no fucking. Fuck you, man. Like honestly, as someone on the spectrum, and a Scottie Barnes fan, these tism things, whatever you guys say, is double. It's double insulting. It's so fucking stupid. I don't get it, man. Anyways, let's yeah, for real. Like you would take this moment to talk about your little inside joke, fucking bro. I hope you're like 12 or 13 years old, because if you're any older than that, I think you are the one who needs to be worrying about this. All right, let's talk briefly about the NBA draft, okay? And just so we're on the record here, I think Emmanuel quickly is fucking awesome. I think he's really I think he's going to be worth whatever contract you sign him to. There's certain types of players where, again, I don't know Emmanuel quickly, and I don't know Scottie Barnes, and I know people around them. That's fine, but that doesn't mean I've ever sat and had a beer with them and asked them about their deepest intimate secrets. So I'm guessing on this, but I'm pretty good at reading people. Emmanuel quickly does not strike me as the type of person who's about to get complacent anytime soon. He has never struck me as that type of person. This is going right back to Kentucky. It's going right back to high school. Like I followed this guy for a very, very long time. He is a person who will continue to get better. And if you give him 30, he's going to try to give you 40. And if you give him 40, he's going to try to give you 50. Like this is not a person who's going to cheat the game, cheat himself, cheat, his workouts. And I think that in terms of culture, when you want to talk about culture builders, um, going from Fred VanVleet to Dennis Schroeder to Manning quickly as a start as a starting point guard is about as different gets. Like I cannot tell you how much I despise Dennis Schroeder and how much I was bothered by some of the stuff that Fred VanVleet did. And I cannot tell you like just to the opposite effect how much I admire Emmanuel quickly. So yeah, I'm a happy person. Whatever you do with Emmanuel quickly, I'm just saying down the line, you do have a bloated contract in Jakob Pertl. That's probably your only like overpay on the roster right now. I think Kelly's pretty much worth what you paid him. Um, so yeah, like you have to be careful with that. But there was a question earlier about does Scottie's contract impact anything with OG this summer? No, it does not at all. Scottie's contract is not kicking in this summer. He is still on his rookie scale contract through next year. The contract being signed will go into effect in season 24, 25, 26. So not 24, 25. So next year, he will continue to make the money that he's been making. I think it'd be like 12 million or something like that, 11 million ish 9 million, 10 million. It will still be the rookie scale contract. And after that year, it will immediately kick into 5 years of this. So you will have Scottie through the first 9 years of his NBA career. That is 2021, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, which is the past 3 years that have just happened, 24, 25, which is next year, and then 5 years beyond that. So it's the first 9 years of his career, he's locked into Toronto. That doesn't mean that he can't demand a trade. To anyone saying like, oh, great, we can just fuck around. No, you can't. Like, you still have to please your star. Otherwise, he could demand a trade at any point. It's very conventional. The CBA and all the deals have been pretty much structured so that stars have maximum incentive to stick around. This is life-changing money. This is generational money. So Victor Chang saying, Rob, you like Topic and Missy. Topic may drop, but not likely 19. Would you trade up and lose assets to get Topic? Example, Brown, 19 to Kings for 13, Herder and Vezenkov, or stay put and get Missy. I would move up 100%. And also, Darko Rajakovic and Sasha Vezenkov were at a conference together, I think like 2 days ago in Europe. So I agree. It is a win for sure. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the current mocks. This is every single mock and that I'm looking at so Hoop Intellect has the Raptors picking Tristan da Silva and Tyler Kolek. The Ringer has the Raptors taking Isaiah Collier and Baylor Shireman. All Bark has the Raptors taking Deron Holmes II and Pacom Dadier. NBA Draft Room has the Raptors taking Yves Missi and Bobby Clintman. NBADraft.net has the Raptors taking Rob Dillingham and Baylor Shireman. Derek Parker has the Raptors taking, on his mock draft, has the Raptors taking Yves Missi. His mock draft was only first round. On his big board, he had KJ Simpson as the 19th ranked prospect. Just for context, he had Yves Missi as the 13th or 14th ranked prospect, and then he has the Raptors at 31 with Jalen Tyson. The Bleacher Report first round had the Raptors taking Carlton Bub Carrington. Yahoo had the Raptors taking Tristan da Silva. That's Kristen Peak, and I really like Kristen Peak, and I've talked about it many times that I really like her. So she had the Raptors taking Tristan da Silva over Tyler Kolek, over Deron Holmes, over Terrence Shannon, and over Isaiah Collier, which I thought was interesting. I'm not really sure the Raptors are that high on Tristan da Silva that they would pass on that much, but it's interesting to know. And then Net Scouts Ball had the Raptors taking Tyler Smith of G League Ignite over Kyle Filipowski, Isaiah Collier, Bub Carrington, Johnny Furphy, and Zach Edey. And at 31, they had the Raptors taking Ryan Dunn. I think it is worth noting that not a single mock draft that I looked at had the Raptors taking Zach Edey, nor did anyone have the Raptors taking Khalil Ware. So those are two of the most common. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this. I can tell you briefly what I'm hoping for this week. And again, to those of you who are not aware, we will be doing a live show for both mock drafts. For both drafts. So both drafts being like day 1, day 2. We'll do 1 hour before. I am creating right now a primer video. It's a big board. It's the Raptors big board, and it's going to play before, so that everyone who is coming in is going to be well aware, even if you have been living under a rock and have been focusing on nothing NBA draft related. Hopefully what I can do is over the next 2 days, I can finish this video. It's pretty comprehensive, where I can talk about the stats, the pros, the cons, how these players fit in. And prior to the draft, we can play this video out. And so you can understand why I'm so high on Yves Missi and maybe why I'm not as high on Khalil Ware, etc. What I'm hoping happens for the Raptors, period, is I'm hoping Yves Missi ends up being a Toronto Raptor. I hope Nikola Topic ends up being a Raptor. And maybe if the draft board breaks absolutely crazy, if both those guys became Raptors, I would be ecstatic. I think these assets are. Oy, this is Bronny's team now. Salon is not dropping. Someone please explain to me let's say the infatuation with Tijani Salon. Like, I'm not really understanding it. I'm not sure what this means, but okay. Kism saying, "Hell no, I watch the NBA since the 90s. Scottie is not elite, nowhere near a threat. He not that guy." Cool. No Ceilings has the Raptors taking Tijani Salon as of June 7th. Really? Where did That's interesting. Look, he I don't think he's gonna fall, but I'm not hmm. Salon, people think he's going to be Giannis Light. He is not Giannis Light. Athletically, game wise, there's no comparison. Like, in my opinion, unless you are just looking for it, it's just not there. My biggest issue with Pascal was his lack of leadership, says Ron Tellum. He wasn't vocal and he let Fred lead. I expect Scottie to be our best player, unlock other people, and actually lead his team. Hmm. No, I don't think he's a good risk at all. I think there are better players in this draft, and honestly, like, I mean, one of the things I wanted to do with my big board is introduce a screen where I say where that player would go in a typical draft. Tijani Salon in a typical draft would be like a 28th overall pick. East Misi in a typical draft would be like a 25th overall pick. It doesn't mean that these players are not great. It doesn't mean anything. I think it's just because there is no clear, definitive superstar talent at the top. People are trying to see superstar talent in Rob Dillingham, and they're like scraping the bottom of the barrel, right? Like, I don't. Keyshawn George has been mocked a ton to the Raptors. What are your thoughts on him? He's outside the top 20 on my board. So those are my thoughts. Yeah. Anyways, so the mock draft, not mock draft, big board for the Raptors should come out, and then it will play also before it will play before we do each day. So you'll hear my thoughts on these prospects. Honestly, what I want to happen is I would like for the Raptors to move up. I think it would be kind of cool. I'm totally okay. Like, one of the things that I think from a roster building perspective, what I would love the Raptors to do, given that I see where the cap is going and everything, is I would like them to load up on 2026 draft picks. Like, I really want them to load up on 2026 draft picks. Like, I think that draft is going to be a gold mine. And Noble Venom saying, I have a feeling the pick is George. I have a feeling it is not. Let me just quickly go through let me just go through this one sec. NBA draft room. One sec. Let me just pull it up. Okay. So to pull the full mock draft out for NBA draft room, they got Zach Risachet going number 1. A lot of talk about Alex Sarr now working out for the Hawks, etc. I'm not a fan of Alex Sarr. I've mentioned this many, many times. It's just not someone that I feel very highly about. Gosh. Stephon Castle. Again, Stephon Castle, oops, sorry about that. In terms of, Cody Williams falling, I'm not sure like he's going to be the 6th pick or whatever. Modest Bazelis is another guy that I can see the Raptors trading up for. Salon is, like, to me, just not a lottery talent. Devin Carter is going to be, I think, a really serviceable player long term. I could see him being like a 12-year vet, and that's solid value to get in this draft. Rob Dillingham, I see a lot of like bust potential. Like if we're there right now with him, like I could see a world in which he is just not an NBA player, like 6 years out. Just defensively, creatively, I've seen a lot of people compare him to Trae Young. I'm not seeing that. I'm sorry. Trae Young was a phenomenal passer, and I'm just not seeing that in him. So I'm looking for a high level utility and floor here. Zach Edey to 15. This makes sense, like to go into the Heat at 15. They could use him. Bob Carrington, I think this might be the pick for the Raptors. Honestly, if there's any player outside of Nikola Topic and outside of East Misi that I'm like really excited about in this range, it is Bob Carrington. I like him a lot. I think his shot making is awesome. I think because like his playmaking upside is immense, and I think he will become a better playmaker. And I think it's just one of those players. I think Pecom Dadier is another player that I could see the Raptors maybe targeting a little bit above. East Misi, Deron Holmes. I'm not seeing nearly the star upside on Deron Holmes that a lot of people are. I think a lot of people just see like boxes and they check boxes with players. I think he is a typical, second round, early second round big. Okay. And I feel the same way about Tyler Smith. I think Tyler Smith is typically the type of player you get in the 40s in a regular draft. I think Ryan Dunn is typically the type of guy you get in the undrafted heat. None of this is to say these guys are not good players or they're not awesome players. I'm just saying typically what you're getting right now, right, with these guys is a lot of question marks, right? So is there a chance that Johnny Furphy turns into an all-star? Yeah, there's a 1% chance he turns into an all-star. There's a 1% chance that Kyle Filipowski becomes like, a starter. There's a 1% chance that Ryan Dunn. But in a typical draft, you're not dealing with 1%. You're dealing with like 12, 15%. And I think that that's what makes this draft so unique in that, the risks that you're taking are a lot bigger. And I do think that it'll be really interesting to see if the Toronto Raptors can get an extra pick or whatever, because I think there's a chance to exploit somebody else's poor management, in terms of, understanding the CBA and whatever, and maybe using their desperation against them. I think that could be really good. So to end this live off, honestly, we're close to the 1 hour mark. I think I'm very, very happy with the Toronto Raptors, Scottie Barnes. I think it shows a lot of faith. To those of you saying, why don't you wait? Why don't you wait? We could wait one more year. We could approach this whole thing next year. That's just not the way reality works. The reality is right now, Scottie Barnes has been given this, I don't want to say given, but if you're Scottie's camp, what you're seeing, and if you're Scottie Barnes, what you're seeing is that the team that you are on has shown the utmost amount of faith in you, and they've shown it early. These things go a long way. If you look at the contract negotiations for Jaylen Brown, all the times where they dangled him in trade talks, all the times where there was unclear certainty about his future with the Celtics, they paid for that in their contract negotiations with him, because he was just like, you're going to give me the supermax, you're going to give me nothing. Like, I'm not taking anything else. And I think that that's where you get screwed, is when you burn a lot of the good graces with the players, right? Like Fred VanVleet is a great example. I think a lot of, what Fred choosing to go to Houston was about money, but I think a lot of it also came down to how much faith do I feel that the Toronto Raptors have shown me over the last year with all the Scottie Barnes stuff. And look, man, it's a little bit of a catch-22 now. If you're one of those people who believe that Fred or Pascal or OG deserve that money, and you feel like Scottie has taken that money now, I mean, look, I'm a realist. I realize how people think. I realize how money, changes people's thoughts. I understand envy comes into this, and I realize that there's probably a lot of people thinking Fred won a championship. Pascal won a championship. Those guys were integral parts of a championship. That's money that they had earmarked for themselves, and now the Raptors have parked it up into Scottie. I think if you're the Raptors, you look at it a different way, which is you had to pay this money for Scottie no matter what. You were going to pay him a max contract no matter what. And it was obvious from the day you drafted him that if he turned into even 60% of what you thought he was going to be when you drafted him, that he was going to be a max player. I think that immediately changed the timeline of the equation for the Toronto Raptors, because once you start to think about building around him, on his timeline, it suddenly throws Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam under the bus. And that might feel unfair to some people who are really big fans of those guys, but it's also the reality of the situation, which is that, if you're the CEO and a better candidate applies tomorrow, you might lose your job. Like, it's just the way things go, right? Like, yeah. So why does the thumbnail say 270? Well, it says 270 because that is the max. It also says 270 because voters historically have been very sympathetic to players who are in this position. What do I mean by that? Last year, we saw Jalen Jalen Brown get the All NBA nod, and that is because voters knew that he had this thing on the line, which was the All NBA. All NBA basically guaranteed him the supermax extension. This year, it was the same thing with Tyrese Halliburton, right? And I think someone got shafted. It was Jalen Brown who got shafted this year, but Jalen Brown didn't have that contract. Next year, every voter will be aware that if they vote against Scottie for third team All NBA, and again, with the 65 game, restriction in place, Scottie will have even more incentives to play the 65 games. So the Raptors won't be able to shut Scottie down, right? There is a bigger implication here, which I wish I had probably talked about earlier, which is this changes your next year a lot. Now, to those of you saying 229, 270, what's the big diff? It's a really big diff, actually. It's a lot of money. You wouldn't be saying that because honestly, there are NBA superstars who didn't make that $41 million that you're talking about sacrificing here in their entire careers, right? Like there was a year where I think Scottie Pippen was making like $1 million, and that's like in my lifetime. So my point is, next year, if you want to shut down, like let's just say last year happened, right? Scottie played, I think, 61 games, 60 games last year, 60 games or 61 games last year. So let's say the same thing happens this year and you're trying to tank. So let's say next year you go into it, you play 45, 50 games with Scottie Barnes, and he has a ticky-tack injury, right? And so it's an ankle sprain or it's a wrist sprain or whatever, and he's supposed to miss 2-3 weeks. So let's say you're in a disastrous situation and you're trying to tank and you're like trying to tank for Cooper Flag, right? Like you're like legit trying to tank. And this year you have your pick and there's no debate. And you're like at the 4th spot, right? You're terrible. Well, first of all, rejoice because he's not going to make All NBA if you're that bad. So that's the first thing. If you're the Raptors, like you get that. But now, can you deprive him of the opportunity to be eligible for All NBA? Or do you have to give him that opportunity to hit that 65 game mark? I believe you have to give him the opportunity to hit the 65 game mark because there's a financial incentive and he knows it. You know it. You can't hold a guy out in that situation. You also, this is another reason why, and just an FYI to anyone who said I was fucking stupid or crazy or whatever, when I said that the Raptors are not going to tank this year, this is another reason the Raptors will not tank next year. You are taking money off the plate of your franchise player. You cannot do that. He has every incentive. Scottie Barnes is walking into next season trying to make the playoffs, not because of money, but because he wants to make the playoffs. But he has every single person in his ears saying, bro, if you make the playoffs and you average what we think you're going to average, you making an All NBA team. 100%. You're going to make All NBA. If the Raptors win 40 games, they make the playoffs, and he averages 26-8 or 22-8-5 or 23-10-7, whatever that number is, as the Raptors' best player and currently in this situation, he will make an All NBA team, which means that he will be granted 270, which means half of the Raptor fan base is going to be pretty pissed off, but that's the truth. Daniel, can we still call in? Yes, you technically still can, but it can't be for very long. But if you want to call in, you can call in for 2-3 minutes. So my longer term point on this is there's no chance in hell the Toronto Raptors are going into next season trading away Jakob Poeltl and saying, okay, now go navigate the minefield that is trying to make the playoffs with no center. And by the way, halfway through the season, we're going to trade everybody away. And also we're going to shut you down. No, you cannot do this and then put him in a position where he has to have a bad season. You have to give him the opportunity to have a great season, which means you have to put in players around him. Like, I know a lot of people don't rate Scottie the way they rated Vince, okay? But truth be told, the minute we signed Vince, it was like, how do you keep him? How do you keep him? It was the same thing with Kawhi Leonard. And I think to some people, maybe it wasn't that way with Chris Bosh because they viewed Bosh as like a secondary star. They didn't view Bosh as like, well, I mean, we did, most smart people did, but the Toronto Raptors, PR machine viewed viewed him as the next Tim Duncan or the next Kevin Garnett or whatever. And I'm sure a lot of people were very happy when he signed. I was looking back, all the moves that the Raptors made to make sure that, Chris Bosh knew that they brought in Jared Jack, blah, 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 guy that he knew from things. So, sorry, Daniel, are you calling in or not? I'm confused at this point. There's a link in the description. You asked, can we still call in? Anyway, okay. I guess if no one's calling in, I'm out. What I'm trying to say is that to anyone thinking the Raptors are coming out next year and trying to be bad, it goes against Scottie's interest and his contract interest to be bad, which means that you have to give him a chance to be on a good team, and then you have to let him fail. Now, it can never ever be shown to his camp or to him that you sabotaged his All NBA campaign. And he's not Fred VanVleet. He's never going to jack shots in order to make it. But there is this internal drive. You have to understand $41 million is crazy. It's a crazy amount of money. It's insane money, to the point where every single person in this chat, and myself included, could pool all our money together, and we probably don't have 41 million combined right now. That's what you're asking somebody to sacrifice. Like, that's just not going to happen. So that's just, like, from my perspective, reading this is simple. You can internally, make up your mind and say we're not ready, but you cannot externally go out and try to tank. You cannot tank, because you have a player who is the most important player on your team, and they have a vested interest in you being better. All right, I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Make sure to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Peace.